So my background has primarily been in consumer businesses and brands. Dr. Mishra, I've worked with brands like Puma in leadership positions. I used to head their e-commerce and their marketing divisions way back in 2011. I was always somebody who paid a fair bit of attention to health, fitness. I was also a failed sportsman, so working for a company like Puma made me feel like I'm still closer to what I wanted to do. And after that, I joined Healthify Me again in a marketing and a BD role, worked directly with the founder. And my last leadership stint was with Discovery, where I led their OTT business division. So, largely, if you look at the trajectory of my last 10 years, I've worked in consumer brands. I've either led business teams or marketing growth and BD teams. So, that's been my professional background.
Coming to me, I'm an engineer from NIT Rourkela, 2006 pass out. Started off as a coder, was in the IT services companies. Worked in the IT services companies for around 4 years. Did my MBA, then moved on to do business and product roles. The last 10+ years, I've been a hands-on product person. Love to build technical products. And using tech as a way to solve problems is what excites me. From what I've built, I've worked in multiple startups in the past. Earlier, I was part of a international remittance startup, built the product from scratch, took it to RBI as well in terms of getting it whitelisted with their sandbox, remittance sandbox. Post that, I started up on my own. So Ivory is my second startup. My last startup was in the field of conversational commerce. This was around the time of COVID when a lot of shopping in India had moved to chat-based interfaces. So we built a chat-based interface for people to manage their stores, sell effectively, sell better, etc. Ran that for around 2 years, raised money for it as well. Eventually had to exit it because we were not able to raise a follow-on round of funding. So we got acquired by another company called InfraMarket, which bought over the technology and got the team also in-house. So after that, I joined the InfraMarket team as group product manager there. That I was building order management system, inventory management system, etc. And that's when the calling to startup again hit again. So that's when I got through this Antler India's residency program, which is for people like me to who want to explore starting up again. Want to look for co-founders. So my last co-founder could not join me at that point because he wanted to stay on and work with the company for a little bit more. So I had to look for another co-founder. Obviously, starting up alone is not an option these days. And that's how I joined Antler. And at Antler, I met Isaac. And what synced up between me and Isaac was first that obviously we both from the same state. So that was a common factor. And we've also got a very similar upbringing in terms of how we grew up, where we grew up. So both small town boys from Kerala who made our careers in different big cities. I've worked in Dubai, I worked in Bangalore, I worked in Calcutta. Isaac has worked across India as well. So that was the common point, and that is what started the conversation between us. And one thing led to another, and we decided to build something for the middle age to the senior age audience.
And would you like to also share your personal experience with this, the cognitive health, both of you?
Rahul, you want to continue?
Yeah, I'll start. So I've not a very hands-on experience, but obviously this is a problem which I've always wondered about. How will the elders in our family be once, when you're a kid, you keep wondering, okay, you see news about people losing their memory. You see that in your extended families, etc. And then you start thinking, okay, what will happen to my parents when they reach their 50s, 60s? Will they be sharp, etc. That was a question mark which is always there in the mind. And always have had this lack of understanding as to why, if you get a preventive health checkup done, you have a checkup for everything else in your body. You have a health checkup for your heart, your lung, your kidney, your liver, everything. But there is nothing for the brain. So that was one trigger point which is always there in my mind. Apart from the fact that I had lost my mother before around 13, 14 years, around the time I did my MBA. And after that, I've been very like guarded about my father as well. I try to I moved to Dubai, worked in Dubai for a couple of years so that I could be close to him to make sure that he was doing okay, and all of that. So always very close to this particular segment of users. Also seen a lot of cases or heard of a lot of cases in my extended family, which made me wonder as a son, okay, what should we watch out for? And as a target segment user also, I'm crossing my 40s, going into my 50s at some point. What should I watch out for? And what should the people around me watch out for? Right. So that is my trigger, Isaac.
I have also been a single parent child, for a large part of my life, Dr. Mishra. I was brought up by my father. And, like typically as Rahul and I are both small town boys from, tier two towns, tier three towns in Kerala. So we went to Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, obviously for better opportunities. My father was left at home. So one fine day when I came back, like I got to know that, doctor has diagnosed him with Parkinson's. And suddenly, right? Like, and then I asked him that, how do you, treat it, etc. There was no medication, etc. Available. I think the hard part of that journey was that over a period of time, I saw his condition deteriorate. Although he was keeping up with his medication, his multivitamins, etc., etc. So, it was not helping. First, he had to give up his job. Then, first he had to give up driving. Then he had to give up his job also. Then eventually, walking also became like really difficult for him. So I think that personal experience stayed. Although that point of time, I did not know that I was like, I would partner with someone like Rahul and form this company. But yes, I saw with very close quarters what neurodegeneration feels like.
So, having understood both of your personal journeys and professional journeys, now let us look at how Ivory is actually helping in addressing some of the problems, the challenges. So take us through that.
Yeah. So as we said earlier, the only way to address the problem of cognitive decline and accelerated cognitive decline particularly is to understand the state much early in someone's life, right? So you can screen for cognitive decline as early as 40 or 45 to ensure that if your profile is something that you should watch out for, then you make some corrections in your life, be more mentally active, be more socially active, be more physically active, because cognitive health is not only about playing games and doing sudokus and puzzles or learning languages, etc. It's also about taking care of our overall health. So there are around 14 risk factors which affect your overall brain health. For example, if you are a diabetes patient or if you have high BP, etc., it contributes immensely to the rate of decline of your cognition levels as well. So everything marries eventually to your brain. Right. So it's very important that your holistic health improves as well as you take care specifically to ensure that your cognitive reserve improves. So Ivory as a solution, our vision is that we are able to make the early screening of cognitive decline as mainstream as possible. So we have a small test called Find Your Cognitive Age. Again, it's a fun way of doing it, but the word fun is very important because this is a very serious topic that a lot of people tend to brush under the carpet and a lot of people do not want to talk about. So in your introduction, you said that we are a mental health startup. We will not say that we are a mental health startup. We are a cognitive health startup because mental health is one of the components of cognitive health. We are a much bigger umbrella, right? So importantly, for you to understand what your cognitive age is, you get to play a couple of games on the app. The app will be able to benchmark how the way you have played with people of your same age and gender. Basically, put you in a bell curve to understand which part of the bell curve do you fall in. So someone who's 50, let's say, comes in and plays decently well. If he gets a cognitive age of 49, 50, or 51, it's a relative age. It's not an absolute age. Basically, someone who's 50 will not get an age of 48, will not get an age of 38 or 35 or something like that. It's always relative to how his real age is, because one of the input parameters to the test is your real age and your real gender, right? So, and that's how your scores get benchmarked, and that's how your cognitive age comes out. Once we understand your cognitive age, if your cognitive age is much above what it should be, for example, let's say someone who's 50 gets a cognitive age of 53 or 54, that's a sign for us to actually look a bit more deep to understand whether this is particularly a case of accelerated decline. And for that, we have a much more bigger, higher sensitive test as well, which is an FDA registered test. It's a 40-minute gaming assessment, consists of 17 gaming tasks, which puts together a comprehensive cognitive profile of the user who is doing it. And this is a cognitive profile which can be shown to any neurologist, any neuropsychologist, and it can be interpreted. We also provide our own interpretation on top of it, because we have also built a layer of interpretation using the help of our scientific advisors and clinical team, etc. We have put a layer of interpretation on top of it. And if the user wants, they can also schedule a one-on-one consultation with a neurocounselor who helps them to interpret this result, and if required, gives them corrective measures which are required to change, right? And our vision is that you have to make this as mainstream, that if you're doing your annual health and wellness body checkup, your brain should be one of the most important pieces of it, right? And that is the gap that we're currently filling in the preventive diagnostic space today.
Okay, so Isaac, if this is so important, why it has not been mainstream for such a long time? I mean, what could be the reasons?
So there are 2, 3 driving reasons to it. One is the skill set level itself. In fact, one is that this has to be, in a setting today, there are about 9 psychologists available for every 100,000 people in India. The density of psychologists itself is less. Typically, this field leans more neuro. So the specific skill set required is neuropsychologist, which is very, very few. Neurologists and geriatric medicine specialists also can register this test, but what happens is that they will always be occupied, unfortunately, with higher order problems, right? A memory forgetfulness issue is not as serious as, let's say, a brain hemorrhage, which is happening on a patient nearby. So it's a mix of, the lack of skill set, like in the country, and that's precisely what our solution also tends to avoid. Our solution is non-invasive, it's a screening, and it can be administered on your own, and you can just check for yourself if there are any early risks. So that's number one. Number 2 reason, Dr. Mishra, that we believe is happening in India is that India's demographic age is actually about 28. And if you look at the kind of digital solutions that have been built in the last decade, right, everything has been built for, the 25 to 45 age group. Whereas if you look at, let's say, solutions in Japan, which is a demographically advanced stage, there are companies which are working on companionship robots for, older people, etc. So the thinking there is completely different, driven by the main sort of demographic segment, which is spending on products and services. So those are the couple of reasons that have, probably meant that India is not, really at the curve. The third reason, just from a systemic point of view, is that as a population, we are very reactionary. We focus on curative health. Our solution or solutions like Ivory, whether they are in the gut health space, whether they are in the breast cancer screening space, or any of these, right? These are all solutions that are coming in the preventive health. It is growing really quickly. But today, I would say 80 to 85% of consumer spends are happening on the curative side across multiple reports. Preventive health is growing very fast, but it's growing off a small base. So I think those 3 reasons I could add.
Okay, so what you mean is the growth is happening in India, but then this is already there as a standard in many of the aging population.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at across the world, whether it is Europe, USA, Canada,
Yes,
Japan, of course, you mentioned, all of them are actually aging quite fast.
absolutely. India is in fact one of the youngest nations in the world right now. And, that's why these solutions are not that mainstream. But imagine this same world 10 years later, right? Like the average age will go from 28, 29 to, 39, 40, which means a significant population. Even today, given our population size, if I remember right, Rahul, just correct me if I'm wrong, but 120 million people above the age of 55, are in India. There are countries with populations much lesser than that, right? So I think there is a significant need at the moment to pay attention to this.
And the same thing that we spoke about, having this as part of your preventive health checkup. One thing that has contributed is the way our lifestyles have evolved, especially in India, in tier 1, tier 2, etc. Right? So we are largely going through a cycle in which we are getting more and more unhealthy in our lifestyle. We have fast food and stuff like that, right? All of this is going to contribute to your overall lifespan and health span. And all of this is also going to contribute to your cognitive health. If you look at some of the Western countries, for example, the US, when you do your annual health checkup, you also do your cognitive health checkup. That is a given. You have not reached that stage because you have not reached the soup that they are in already. So the only idea, and obviously you can see how the preventive health market has taken off the last 5 years in India, right? Especially after COVID hit us, we got a reality check of what happens. And people are now more and more cautious. They are asking the right questions. In fact, one example that I can give you directly related to our field is our team of advisors, clinicians who work with us, is that before COVID, you used to get this memory, people walking in with a memory problem, and the typical demographic was 55 plus or closer to 60 or more than 60 and all of that. After COVID, what has happened is the number of people who are coming with a memory issue saying that, okay, I'm afraid what is happening to my memory, etc. That is now tending closer to 40 and 45. Right. So basically, people have got a reality check. They understand that they need to take care of health in a preventive fashion. And that is why this is a growing space. And that is where a solution like ours fits in, because as we said, if you can get your entire body checked, brain is the most important part of your body. It consumes the most energy every day for your day-to-day function. That should be something that should be on your priority list as well.